So I said, no, that's fine. I can give you my number, and then you can send them to me. So I give him my number, and then he says, bye, bye. Ah, munu 2 weeks, bye. He doesn't send a message. He doesn't say anything. And then for me, that's when it became a little bit concerning because I was in a relationship at that time. It wasn't going really well, by the way, but I was confident that this was the relationship that I was meant to be in. I was going to make it work by all means necessary. So it became a bit concerning for me because I started to think about this guy who took my number backstage and hasn't apped, hasn't sent a message, hasn't done anything. And I was like, how dare he does that? How rude, right? And then one day, I don't remember, I think it was maybe a month after that, I just receive a hi, how are you? And me being me, I'm like, I'm good. Who is this? And then he jogs my memory and says, oh, remember we met backstage. Da, da, da. And then he sends the pictures. I was like, oh, you. Ah, okay, cool, cool, cool. Thanks. And Charles, you know what? How dare you take my number and you don't? Because I didn't want to give off that vibe. But I started thinking about this person, and I said to God, why is this person like all over my space like this? I'm not liking it. You know, I'm in a relationship. I want to focus on this relationship, and I want it to work. Then that relationship didn't work. It
Hey, listen. Listen, they say don't let your boyfriend stop you from finding your husband. You understand what I'm saying to you? Listen, Father, we thank you in the name of Jesus because things are crazy. Look, it's not always clean how things happen. You know what I mean? And sometimes when God wants to, divinely change things around, it's not always clean. What I would say is, it's interesting because her relationship at the time, like she said, it wasn't great. Now that's going to be the excuse she's going to use to cover herself. I want to be clear. I don't disbelieve her, but I want to be fair. People need to start being accountable. If a man comes out and says to you, my relationship wasn't that great, so I took a girl's number, she gave me photos, we were looking at like the guy was cheating, and that's what she was doing. Yeah, she was emotionally cheating. Yeah, because really and truly, you were even hoping that he would even come back and send you photos, and you start thinking about him for 2 weeks after. We were emotionally cheating. I think we have to call it what it actually is. But look, I'm not mad. If it got you to where God has told you to get to, because look, not everything's always clean the milk. And I've lived a particular life, and I know this, and my whole life isn't clean. You know what I'm saying to you? I've done some things, so I understand, right? Let's call it what it is. You know what I'm saying to you? And I know sometimes people don't want to tell the full story, and I understand that you've got to protect your relationship and protect your marriage. But that's ain't gonna clean the milk, right? When you explain a story like this and tell me, listen, why is it after one meeting he's on your mind because he took your number and he didn't send you photos? It's a super story, you know what I mean? But listen, we're going to break it down. We're going to break this video down. I'm not going to go all the way, but I'm going to break down the first few moments. And I think it's important to have a conversation. And I wanted to say this as well. This is not a condemnation for anybody, not for her, not for you, not for anybody else. This is also to say that, like, as human beings, sometimes things are messy and God can work in that mess. You know what I'm saying to you? I've witnessed it. I've seen it. I know he can. But I also will say as well that sometimes we have to also be very careful that sometimes we're saying that God is working in the mess when really God is telling you to take a time out and rest before you go back into that, because it might be the right kind of person, but you might need to take a break before you go into that. You know what I'm saying to you? Greater wisdom will tell you that. Now, I'm not saying that's for everybody because God can work in different ways for different people, but a general consensus would be that just go park your bus and take some time. Even if God reveals us a husband or that's your wife, sometimes you just need a little bit of time before you get to that place. Time and season for everything. Sometimes we can rush it. And remember, I told you about that last time in another video where I spoke about the fact that sometimes we can miss the process because we're trying to get to the promise. You know what I'm saying? Like we can rush something. But I'm not saying that's her. I'm not saying that's what exactly happened. I'm just saying for us as a greater lesson, be very much aware there is a process before the promise. There's preparation before the promise. And sometimes, yes, you are in a wrong relationship. And sometimes, yeah, you've met the right person. It's the right time. That's important as well. Okay. So let's break this video down because she was graced to find her husband while she was with her boyfriend. Let's start from the very beginning. Let's go back to the beginning of this video because we need to understand what was going on and what was happening here as well.
The year was 2016 when I was hosting one of the biggest beauty pageants to be held in Zimbabwe during that time. It was the Miss Tourism Zimbabwe. And it was the time when Barbara Mzimbi was the patron for Miss Tourism. And they were looking for a voice. They were looking for someone to, sway that shade, that stage. They were looking for someone who was just going to just glide through. So I'd been working with them behind the scenes and eventually got the position to actually host an MC with Tej Mawoni. This was in 2016. And while I was on stage, there was a young man in the audience who had his eye on me. And apparently, he told the guy he was sitting with, who happened to be a relative of his, that I am going to marry that girl. And obviously, I don't know if it was a bet or I don't know what happened, guys. I don't know. But all I remember is him telling me that, no, I told my cousin that that's my wife. I'm going to marry that girl. And I'm sure the cousin was like, bet, right? Fast.
I won't be very fair to us as men. It happens a lot. It happens a lot. Like those moments happen. You know what I mean? You have an Adam and Eve moment where you're like, bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. I know that's the one. You know what I mean? Now, sometimes that can just you're being infatuation and your lust, but that does happen a lot to us as men because we, like I said, when us men, we know, and that's why we move with speed. That's why I said when a man's sure about you, he moves with speed. When he's not sure about you, he moves very slow and very laborious and very, very delayed because he's not sure about you. Whether he's not sure about his own finances, whether he's not sure about his own life, whether he's not sure about the God that he serves, whether he's not sure about you, whether he's not sure about the fact that he's attracted to you, whether he's not sure about the fact that you guys just keep having sex but not actually going to anywhere further along the line, whether you're not intellectually compatible, whatever his reason is, there is some reason as to why he slowed it down. That's why it's taking so long. There's always a reason. So as we hear with these stories, men that know, go. Speed.
Forward 2017. Again, I'm on stage. It's Carnival. I'm hosting with Chief Coty. We are having such a vibe on stage. And at this point, I was so grateful to God for all the platforms that he had allowed me to stand on and just to share my voice with people, to share my vibe with people. And this young man decided, that's it. This is the time I am going to introduce myself to my future wife. Then he came backstage. And he was dressed so smart, I remember. He came backstage and, he was just, talking to everybody backstage. And I didn't really realize him at that point. But now that I, think about it in hindsight, he was quite the, social butterfly there. And he was talking to people. Then he eventually came to me and he says, hi. And I was like, hello. So in my mind, I'm thinking, it's a fan, guy. So let's just talk to the fans. And then it's like, oh, you're doing such a really great job there. You're looking good. I said, oh, thank you. Then he said, do you mind if you take a picture? And I said, not a problem. Then I think he went to a filter or something. I said, no. There's no need for filters. I like the way I look. And then he looked.
Listen, she's a confident woman and I respect it. She's a very glamorous, beautiful woman as well.
At me and he's like, confident. I was like, yeah, I don't mind. So we take the picture. And I need to find those pictures. I'm going to ask him for them. And then we take the picture backstage. And then he says, thank you. I was like, sure. Then he says, oh, wait, how do I get them to you? And I was like, oh, how do I get them to you? Dude, who said I want those pictures? You can keep them. So I said, no, that's fine. I can give you my number and then you can send them to me. So I give him my number. And then he says,
no, let's stop there. Now, sis, you're not stupid. I want to be fair. Listen, when the man them do this nonsense, I call them out for the nonsense they do. When women are trying to exit a relationship, instead of exiting, they do something that men do too. You've already started plotting your exit because there ain't no way you're telling me that you thought it would be sensible for you to get a person's number so they can send you a picture. The picture was even just selfies. Look, you can tell the story how you want to tell the story. I'm not mad at it, but girl, you were cheating. No, sorry, you was about to cheat. Let's be honest, because if in 2016 we know the technology is slightly different to what it is now, right? So we all know that. Okay, cool. All right. So I understand, but you didn't need those photos. If you're a beauty pageant person, you get professional photos done. Why would you need a selfie to be sent to you? Like, even if he suggested, you could have said, "Listen, it's okay. You keep it. It's for your thing." Right. And the fact that he says, oh, how do I send it to you? Right. Like, it's like me asking Chris Brown, maybe not a good example, but let me just use Chris Brown anyway. But Chris Brown, well, how do I get his photos to you? Don't get any dirty ideas. You know what I mean? Like, why would Chris Brown need the photos? You know what I'm saying to you? Like, why does he need the photos? He doesn't. You know what I'm saying to you? He doesn't need the photos. I do. So it's like, if you are the person of the status, you don't need the photos. You're going to get professional photos. That's why I said it's a play. That's why I said that's cheeky and you know exactly what you're doing, but he knows exactly what he was doing too, right? Okay.
Bye. Munu 2 weeks, bye. He doesn't send a message. He doesn't say anything. And then for me, that's when it became a little bit concerning because I was in a relationship at that time. It wasn't going really well, by the way, but I was confident that this was the relationship that I was meant to be in. I was going to make it work by all means necessary. So
So when you add the caveat, and by the way, again, I'm not shooting her. I want to just keep it a buck and keep it real, because this is what happens. And we talk about men being villains and bad guys. And look, again, this is within the Christian context too, right? Because these stories, like David and Bathsheba, bear in mind, obviously, there's extra context, but David and Bathsheba, kind of similar thing, right? Like David and Bathsheba are messy. It's messy because of what David did. Took a man out and saw his wife. You know what I mean? It's messy. So it's like, we're not saying that messy stories can't be turned around by God. God can really can use any mess and turn it for his glory. Thank God he's God and he's not us. But sis, so now you're going to tell us that you were thinking about it for 2 weeks. Again, reinforcing my idea that this previously, it wasn't an innocent photo at the time. So when you're telling a story, making it sound like you were innocent, you're not. You know exactly what you're doing.
It became a bit concerning for me because I started to think about this guy who took my number backstage and hasn't sent a message, hasn't done anything. And I was like, how dare he does that? How rude, right? And then one day, I don't remember, I think it was maybe a month after that, I just received hi, how are you? And me being me, I'm like, I'm good, who is this? And then he dogs my memory and says, oh, remember we met backstage, blah, blah, blah. And then he sends the pictures. I was like, oh, you, okay, cool, thanks. And you know what, how dare you take my number and you don't, because I didn't want to give off that vibe. But I started thinking about this person and I said to God, why is this person like all over my space like this? I'm not liking it. You know, I'm in a relationship. I want to focus on this relationship and I want it to work. Then that relationship didn't work. It ended so bad. It ended so embarrassing. It ended so painful. I don't think I had any more tears left in me to cry over that relationship because I'd cried so much in it. And it's funny, hey, you cry so much in a relationship and you think it's still going to work out. Listen.
You know what's interesting though? So taking aside also the cheating part, because it was cheating. Emotionally anyway. But and I'm being facetious because it wasn't that long. But taking that into account though, there was a lot of people, men and women, who are in wrong relationships. I've been in one. So I know you're in wrong relationships and you are crying, whether it's physically or whether it's emotionally, mentally, you are crying about this relationship a lot of times. You know it's not right for you. You know that this relationship isn't serving you, but you stay because it's like you've committed yourself to this is the one. You've committed yourself, not God, but you committed yourself to this has been the one. And then said, God, join me in my venture, rather than saying, God, where are you taking me to? Who are you asking me to be with? Is this the right person for me? We are now trying to say, I'm going to choose that person and then invite God. And it's the wrong way around. So what she's describing is a lot of people's actually instances before they get married is that they were in a wrong relationship because they stayed because they wanted it. Their heart wanted it and their flesh wanted it, but they hadn't consulted God on what he wanted for them. And that's why you end up in these bad relationships that aren't great for you. And of course, then she ends up meeting her husband. But
honey, if you are crying now, you're going to cry even more once you settle down. So while you still have the chance, while you still have the time, while you still have the energy, while there's no strings attached, while there's no commitment put in there, leave. Take your leave, have dignity, love yourself, and exit that relationship. I had to learn the hard way that I am important. I had to learn the hard way that I am valued. I'm valuable. It was a painful process, but I thank God so much for it because it did propel me into the confident woman that I am today. So that relationship ending so bad, I don't remember what I posted on my WhatsApp. And this new friend of mine, because now we had been chatting and talking, and he was literally like a brother, because I was even like, you know, and him try to get on my.
what you're not going to do is skip over. How do we get to brother? He's like a brother to me. I know the relationship ended, but you know when someone doesn't give you timelines, it often means that things are blurred. I'm just gonna be honest with you. And again, I'm not shooting her. I'm just keeping it a buck and keeping it real. Whenever someone doesn't give you timelines, when they start telling you the story, it often means there was some blurred lines. So they're trying to just tell the story. You know what I mean?
My WhatsApp, and this new friend of mine, because now we had been chatting and talking, and
so was it after the relationship? That's what, like someone. If it wasn't someone, most people would have made it very specific that after I'd broken up, I finished with my partner. It was after the situation. Now we had actually developed. Now we were beginning to develop a friendship. But she doesn't say that, which means you probably were talking on WhatsApp a little bit in between. You know, I know he said he popped up and you know he saw the WhatsApp message and that's why he popped up and said what he said. I wonder. I'm being facetious again. I'm being a little bit naughty. You know what I mean? Like I'm reading into it because she hadn't actually said that. You know what I mean? I'm kind of reading in between the lines a little bit, and I may be wrong. And you know I may be wrong. And you know, I just
He was literally like a brother, because I was even like, and him try to get on my baby. I would like chat girls up for him. I'm like, hey, I have a friend. He's single. He's looking to marry, because he made his mission clear. He says, hey, listen, I'm looking for a wife. I want to settle down. I'm ready for this. And I was busy looking for girlfriends for him, and none of them seemed to be working. So even I went on this date, and that I didn't like.
So where was your mind at? If within, remember, 2 weeks, remember this, within 2 weeks you were with your man and you were thinking about him. He's now suddenly come back, and now you want to help him with other girls. Something's not quite right, sis. I'm just going to say that honestly. Something's not quite right in the milk. I'm not saying that you didn't try to help him, by the way. I believe that two truths can be true. I think you were genuinely helping him, but we're not getting a full understanding of what's going on. And I think she does explain a little bit later on. Let's play.
Her, that one never even happened. She just blue ticked me. I was like, man, what's wrong with you? Why don't these girls want you? And I posted something on WhatsApp pertaining to the relationship that had just ended, but without saying my relationship had ended. And then he sends a message and says, I sense trouble in paradise. Do you want to talk? Then
now let's pause it right here. She just said, now she posts a picture posts a little status on WhatsApp. There's trouble in paradise. So that means you were helping him with other ladies before then. This is a very inappropriate relationship. I'm saying it so that you don't fall into a trap, because a lot of times people can fall into this trap, right, of thinking that they're innocent for doing what they did because I never acted on anything, but you actually are still doing something. It's emotional cheating. And I'm saying it so that you don't do it in your marriage, because a lot of people think that this is I didn't do anything. Men do it, women do it. They're skating on that line where it's like, oh, I never did anything, so I didn't do anything wrong. No, you're emotionally cheating. It's emotionally cheating. Like, there's no way that somebody who you yourself feel like you're thinking about this dude, and you're wondering what is weird that you're thinking about this dude, and you're not being cautious about the boundaries you have. And then now we're having, but he's like a brother to me. But you were thinking about him 2 weeks into your relationship when you met him. Sorry, you were thinking about him for after the situation for 2 weeks. It was weird. And then now he's popped up. Now you were talking, and it is a brother situation. You're hooking him up with other girls, and then. Say less.
I let him know. I was like, then he's like, what? Who would break up with you? And then he starts chatting me up. And obviously he was really just trying to hype me up. And then he said, if you don't mind, can I take you out to lunch? And I'm thinking, there is no way you are taking me out to lunch. I'm too vulnerable. I know my emotions are not in the right place. I am not going to lunch with you. It's not going to happen. And then he says, no, like just one lunch, and then you can decide after that. I said, decide what? Are you helping me, or you're trying to shoot your shot? And then he laughed it off. He says, just let me know when you're ready for lunch. At that time, my mom was still alive. This was late 2017 towards 2018. And I say to my mom, I just, broke up with that guy that we all thought was going to be the one. But there's this other guy. I've been talking to him, but he's like a friend, a brother. I don't see a relationship with this guy, but he's asked me out for lunch. My mom says, just go and talk. You need the space. You need the time out. So, guys, I went out on a date with this guy, a lunch date, and he took me out for sadza. We had sadza, and we spoke like we had known each other for years. We spoke like he knew me, and like I
mean, he kind of did, because y'all were still seemingly still talking on WhatsApp. Just want to be honest with that and fair. Just want to be honest and fair. I'm not discounting how she felt, because it's a real thing. When you meet someone the same chemistry and the same energy, same vibe, like, it just seems like it's God ordained. I definitely hear that. But that's what I said about time and season. Sometimes we meet people and it's outside of time and outside of season. And just because you didn't sleep with them or have sex with them doesn't mean you weren't actually out of pocket for the behavior. It's something I've been learning as well, that sometimes we utilize God in our nonsense, and we try to scapegoat ourselves by saying, well, why would God, I said this before, specifically me, I've said this before, like, why would God allow me to meet this person at this time? No, brother, sister, you weren't supposed to do anything with that, though. And if God wants to make it happen, he has a divine timing that he knows how to make it work so that it's not messy. What makes it messy is us stepping outside of the principles of God and acting outside of wisdom and acting in flesh. So I'm warning all of us, because it's worked out for her, but sometimes it doesn't work out for people. You do this particular behavior and it causes more carnage and more hurt. Now I'm guessing obviously she's not telling the whole story, because she has to cover people and make sure that they're not going to be exposed. But the reality of the situation is, like I said, I've been in these situations, so I know it does lose you a lot more. You know what I mean? But the way she telling the story,
knew him. And while we were talking, pictures of a wedding that he was part of, one of his friends, his best friend, the pictures came through. They were sent. And he says, "Ah, look, this is so cool. The wedding that I was part of, the pictures just came through. You're gonna have a look." I said, "Sure, let's have a look." So this is us perusing through, swiping, and I'm looking.
You know what? I'm gonna do a part 2, so I don't want the video to go on too long. I'm gonna do a part 2 and I'll break it down. But I wanted to say this: listen, for you, anybody else watching there, you just gotta be exercising caution and boundaries in your own relationship. If you're wanting to leave, leave. And it's look, it's something I've had to learn the hard way. If you want to leave, leave. You know what I mean? Don't play. Don't try to monkey branch. Don't try to secure another man or woman before you exit. Just exit. You know what I'm saying? To start your healing journey. Go on your healing journey. Go on a place where you start really learning how to bring wholesomeness to yourself after that breakup, because you're gonna need it. All right, you're gonna need it. It's like having a bad injured knee injury and then re-entering sports. You're gonna re-injure it again. Right. And we don't want that in a relationship format either, because it means extra work. It means things you have to sort out in the marriage later on. It means that these things can come up because they haven't been sorted. You know what I mean? You're building a foundation which is not going to be sturdy, as sturdy as it needs to be. There are actual repercussions for this behavior. So you're not free. This is something I've learned with God. You're not free. Trust me, as somebody who's lived a certain life, I can tell you for free. Like, it seems like you're getting away with it, but you ain't. Anyway, make sure you like, share, subscribe, click on that bell button. I would love to know your thoughts down below. What's your thoughts there? Do you think that she overstepped the boundaries? Do you think that what she just told us as a story is a full truth? How did you see it? What did you deduct and what did you deduce? Let me know down below. Appreciate you guys. Saluted. We'll see you again soon as well. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, and there's not much I wouldn't do. So be careful out there.
Black. You know what time it is.